Hi guys, I hope everyone is well. I wanted to come on today just to really shoot the breeze. I feel like I've been quiet, more quiet than usual on the channel. And I thought I'd just share what's been going on with me. Everything is fine, I suppose, you know. I wouldn't call this, what I'm going through, an existential crisis. I wouldn't, because I'm having one of those moments where I'm realizing perhaps this is one of those things that'll keep happening. And I'd rather refer to it as an existential review. Like, what am I doing on earth? What am I doing on YouTube? Why? Why do I always feel YouTube pulling me back when there's absolutely nothing practical keeping me here? I love this channel. I love having a place to express myself. I'm just clearing the energy, you know? No cards today. I've also been looking a lot at my relationship with content, spiritual content, what I do versus what I consume and what's out there. It was only yesterday when a friend mentioned for the longest time throughout his spiritual journey, he wasn't listening to content. And it made me think. It made me think about what content I've been listening to for 3 years. And even how I interact with my own cards when I read for myself. And I realized that this past week is probably the first time I have dived into YouTube looking for information. I've come across some impressive individuals. And, you know, I look at it from two sides. I look at it, sometimes I find myself watching twice because I've got the mind that's reviewing myself. Okay, I'm human. So there is that comparison mind that rears its head. And then there's the taking in of the information and the knowledge. And I realize that that's very difficult for me, to listen to someone else's knowledge, to integrate it. Because basically how my whole life has gone is, since I was a child, I've had a certain way of interacting with my unseen, physically unseen environment. There are questions way back to when I was 8 years old that I'd ask myself way before the word consciousness, you know, ever made its way to me. I actually only started understanding what consciousness means. And I'm not sure I know what it means still, to be honest. Maybe in the last year. This idea of, I suppose, awareness of my being is what I'd say consciousness is to me. But there's so much terminology out there that one can really get lost in terms of like, who am I? Who am I when I look at what's out there? And I've reached a point where I think I can't put myself into context based on anything external. And usually when I'm watching some of this content, I'll tell you, I found Gabby Kovalenko, what a woman. Like, she's, there's something about her. And I just watch her moving and I just watch her talking. And I'm just like, she's the first person I've seen online where I can see the masculine and the feminine dancing, like as I watch. It's in her voice. It's in her voice, the authority that she speaks with. And somehow I'm able to hear what she's saying. I'm able to not hear it. I'm able to take it in. But then again, the terminology comes up and I'm like, ooh. How I used to think about consciousness when I was young was really, here I am. This is me. And I would wonder to myself, when I am not here in my immediate environment, where everything I see is here happening in my presence, where I am not, like what I cannot see, where I am not, like 3 kilometers away or 300 kilometers away, where I'm not, is anything existing? Is stuff happening? Or is it all reliant on my awareness here? Like as in, and I'm explaining it from the mind of an 8-year-old, you know, because that's when I remember starting to think about this. I could see the observer in me, observing and wondering whether observation is actually what creates life, like means life is happening. And to the point where I started to think maybe this is a very like self-centered way of seeing the world, to think that I'm running it and it's all about me, and if I'm not present in the space, it's pretty much black space. But when I think about that in retrospect, I think I was making a lot of sense. I think I was making a lot of sense, because this is the only thing that I can observe. This is the only thing that I can do. And everything else that's happening out there, outside of me, for one, is way beyond my control in terms of this human. I'm definitely a part of something, because as I move inside, things around me are moving, you know? But the thing is, I took a pause because I was starting to wonder, why do I create content? There's so much content out there. Why do I create it? And I've come to something. You know, last night I did a reading for myself, and when I was done, I mean, the lights were pretty much off already. I was in my pajamas, I was done. And I laid out my cards, and after looking at them, I regretted not sharing the reading here on this channel. Because as I was interacting with the energy, I could feel the shifts, the awareness of this space and this place and time that we're in. I could see it in the cards, and I felt like I should have shared that with my pyramid energy family. My perception of what I see happening, and as I move through this energy. And the reason I have not posted absolutely everything, I suppose, as I'm interacting with cards, and there's something else I'm going to tell you from a personal level about what I do share here on the channel. But I felt like I needed to retreat to figure out why I create content, what drives me, because I was now starting to deal with this tension of, I've got to balance how much time I spend creating this content, because I have to live. I have to spend my energy in places that are going to bring me some money. And I got really clear. I realized that obviously YouTube is not, I can't survive on the money I get from YouTube. And it was starting to create a tension and a lostness, a lost feeling about how much I'm giving of myself here. But I'm talking purely money here. I'm not talking about my actual energy, because in terms of the exchange of like the richness of conversation that I get, this connection that I feel, you can't put any value on that. I can't put a value on that. The kind of growth that I've experienced interacting with this audience, and I know the audience has had its shifts, and some people are new and some people have left, and I'm aware like sort of what's happening, and I can also feel the shift in energy. And even when someone comments that I've never seen comment, somehow I can tell the difference in terms of whether they're seeing this for the first time, or if it's just that they're commenting for the first time and they've been here for a long time. I can feel it. But within this pyramid energy space, now I'm going to compare this to content that I consume. I ask myself, why do I bear my soul here on pyramid energy? Why do I? Because I've then got to deal with the filtering. The feedback is so valuable, but like I can't rely on the feedback, because then I'm over attaching to this feedback. I also need to balance what feels true to me versus what may be just somebody else's truth, because this is how we learn. How else do we learn but to interact with the information that we come across and pass it through our own personal filter, take what you need and leave the rest. But the stuff that I share here on pyramid energy is all about me. I just thought I'd say that. And maybe from tomorrow it won't be. I'm actually talking about what has happened thus far. Like, I have people who message me and they're like, and this might sound familiar to some of you, but I'm saying, like, you're not the only one who said this to me, that I read cards for you. Like, I will get a message on Instagram that says, I'm the person you're looking for. You were talking to me. And I don't know how to respond to that. I almost like, because it's text, I feel like it would be silly to respond, it's me too. But this is the thing, is that the level of information that I get when I'm doing a reading for us, I learn from it. I extract so much from there, but sometimes so much that it's like information overload. Like, when I do a reading, I record it. Okay, so now that's my channeling mind, let's call it that. Okay, so I'm not actually, I'm an observer of the information. After that, I have to go edit it. And even if I'm not like cutting and chopping or whatever, I've got to sometimes listen to it to be able to put a title. Because now, as I'm channeling or reading, I'm not thinking about the title. I'm trying to be present. So I've got to listen to get a title out or a description out. And then sometimes I end up like listening maybe a little bit more, because I've got to make sure that none of the audio was messed up or whatever, because, it's happened once before. So now paranoia. And then only after that, once it's gone, do I get to go back and listen to it as a listener. And so what's actually happening is I'm not recording and dumping, record, dump, record, dump. I'm recording, I'm editing, I'm sharing, and then I'm coming back to sit from this side with all of you. And so that's where the energy consumption started to become a challenge. And I've somehow solved this thing because it also, remember, it creates a fear for me, because now that I'm aware that all of these things apply to me, and I'm comfortable that, whoever's watching, you've got to be really invested in the information to watch. Like, I'm assuming I'm not being like watched by some stalker who's only interested in what's happening in my life. I mean, that's a bit, they've got more to worry about than I do in that case, So I'm comfortable with that. But it's not attaching too much to the outcome of each video. Realizing that my reason for sharing is for learning. My reason for sharing is to not grow alone. My reason for sharing is to express myself and have an art, because it's like it is an escape. It is an escape from all of this physicality, while I figure out what the physicality is about. So it's pure art. It's pure art. And it's helping me to grow. I'm a completely different person to the person who started this channel in March. I'm not the same person. I'm not the same person. I can even feel it in my chakras. So many shifts have happened. I'm not the same person. And sometimes it's when I go back to past content that I connect with this. And sometimes it's when I go out into the big bad world and I interact with someone and I realize, I'll just call them an ordinary person, because I think we're all spiritual beings, irrespective of our awareness. So let me call it someone who is not spiritually aware, comments on my energy. And they don't say, I like your energy. They'll say, I've been rushing around. I heard this on Friday. I've been rushing around. I've been, anxious because planning this, planning that, putting all of this together. This is someone I don't know, putting this all together. And suddenly, as I'm speaking to you, I feel calm. Almost lost it there. I'm in the middle of like a corporate building. My sister's graduating from a course. And so it's very busy for me. But I realized he was like, sorry, I hope I'm not depleting you or anything. And I said, not at all. I said, there's so much more where that came from. And where that was coming from me was actually an appreciation that there I was sharing my energy unknowingly. I'm sharing my energy with someone who is not sucking my energy. They are affirming the reason I do what I do. They're confirming that everything I do on myself and work on in terms of myself has a positive effect on another person. Showing one person that there is a transfer of energy between people. We don't have to know each other. We don't even have to share information with each other. He doesn't know me, and somehow this guy, spoke to him for 10 minutes and I carry him in my heart. I'm still thinking about him. He flashes back and forth, and I'm like, I'm happy to share my energy with someone like that, because great guy, making a difference in his environment, aware of where his energy is at and aware of when it's shifting. And I think that's why I love pyramid energy. That's why I love creating content. It's to make a difference. It's to make a difference. And I've been, and maybe this is only of interest to me, this discussion. But it's important for me to say, because I realized that I've been going through my own review, which I know is going to affect how I show up here on Pyramid Energy. I'm considering changing like the structure of like separating what I share, the nature of the things that the content that I share, just to help myself in terms of maintaining integrity in terms of what I share. When I'm consuming content, I don't really appreciate content. I mean, I don't mind it out there, but I'm saying I don't take in content that is explaining to me how the world works, how it works, what's out there, what God is. Because as beyond, if your explanation of God is not love, okay? If it's not love and it's not everything, it's lost on me. It's lost on me. I have battled with this free will versus destiny conversation quite a bit. And I've spoken about it quite a few times. And I'm bringing this up because, you know, I don't just get to decide, yeah, from today I'm going to produce a video a day, and then by the end of next month I'll have gone viral and everything that I feel is going to happen will have happened. I don't get to do that. I don't get to do that. Thankfully, there is enough information out there to have given me enough comfort to know that it doesn't mean that I'm like a deeply wounded individual if my stuff is not going viral. You know what I mean? I'm bringing this up because it's real to me. It's real to me, this seesaw I feel like I'm sometimes on, wondering why I'm investing so much energy. And it's actually, the investment is present. So when I say investment, I've been looking at it as though what I invest now, I will reap later. No. As I invest, I'm reaping. Because here's the proof. Here I am. March, April, May, June, July, August, September, October, November. 9 months. That's how long, a little bit longer, and I could have created a whole baby in my tummy, but I have. I've like completely transformed as an individual, and each piece of content has transformed me. And so the reason I'm here is I'm sharing myself. That's all. I'm sharing myself. There's often this fear of being wrong about what I share. And that's why whenever I talk about existential stuff, like anything I've shared about God, like, you know, what's out there, that's purely flowed from my heart. It's flowed purely from my heart. Even when I've touched on Jesus, that has flowed from my heart. That's how it's presented to me when I'm inside my heart. If I talk about guides, that's how it's presented to me in my heart. Is it Jesus? Is it guides? Is it a poet from the 19th, 20th century? Only God knows. Only God knows. And that's why over the months, you know, whenever somebody says something that, like, you know, comes along, casts some doubt, I've got defensive and said, it's art. Because as far as art goes, I can share anything. And I sometimes forget to add the disclaimer, you know, please listen with discernment or whatever. But I truly appreciate this audience, you guys, because what's also dawned on me this past week is I sit in such a position of privilege to engage and to interact with such highly deeply intuitive people. There have been environments I've been in where my language, my words are lost on people. And, you know, when one is looking for relationships, friends, whatever it is it not one of our main wishes? And when we've come out of relationships like that, one of our main regrets, having to explain ourselves? I've seen so many memes about, I don't want to explain myself to a person, whether it's a friend or a lover, whatever it is, to not have to explain oneself. To not have to explain oneself. You know, I don't have to explain myself here. I get to get to the root of the matter, whatever I feel like I've come to share. And it's like grasped, like we're so connected. I feel so connected. And not in a way where I'm like, you are mine. Chain you, you're not allowed to go anywhere. You know? So thank you. Thank you, because I truly do. I obviously I owe my growth to myself, the action I've taken, my own courage. But you met me on the other side. You met me on the other side. It's like I knocked on a door and someone actually answered, and I had no clue there was even anyone on the other side. And through you I've grown. And through some of you I've got to hear how our interactions have affected you and in your own life. I feel it through your appreciation that you show, the depth with which you engage. I can't even explain this to anyone outside of my world. There are very, very, very few people who get me to that point, who aren't so like into spirituality this deep. And this particular style, actually, it's hard to explain how deep this feels, how connected it feels. But that's what I've been doing as well. I've been trying to find my, with the withdrawal, trying to just get clear on my individuality, where I'm at. It gets so confusing. It gets so confusing. And again, this is where I get pissed off when I look at other content. And it's not supposed to trigger me, because actually if you don't like content, you should just, click off. But, I don't always run from a trigger. I sometimes stop and I'm like, I look at it and I think, what is happening here? What is happening here with me? But it's this pressure in terms of like what one sees out there in wanting to grow, wherever I am, I do want to grow. It doesn't matter where I am. There are places where I volunteer and I'm like, I don't need more than this. And then somehow so much more pops out from there. I suppose reading cards was like that. I wasn't like trying to grow in cards. I just wanted to understand, and I felt so invited into cards, and then all this stuff happened. And also this journey on pyramid energy, I was just like, let's see. And along the way, as I was trotting along, this thing happens. And I'm learning something from that. I'm learning that it's that non-attachment. It's like this thing is like intertwined. It's like, get attached to something, it can't grow. It can't grow. Let go of it completely, it can't grow. It won't grow. It can't, because you've completely let go of it. So you're not watering it, you're not doing anything with it. You somehow have to learn to love it again, to protect it, so that you're only interacting with it according to what you love of it and about it. And if you're going to spend your time in there, you've got to be willing to let go of any thoughts about what anyone will think, whether you'll regret something later. Like, it's just the love of it. Like, I was remembering just before I started this video, I was just thinking about music, like listening to music. And I just got to my bedroom and I like put on speaker and I was like listening to music, and I was like, and I felt all this energy building, and I was like, this is, you know, I feel so good. I couldn't explain it, but I was just like, that feeling, and I was almost clutching to it. I was like, this feeling that I have right now is the feeling that I have when I'm like doing a reading that's just like where I'm just in it. It's like and they're not all like that. I'm just saying, like, especially closer to the beginning of pyramid energy, that's how I was interacting with it. Like, and it's almost in that getting lost in something when you're in that flow of it, because you just love it and you're just in it, and time disappears. It's in those moments that something wonderful happens. And I mean, obviously the wonderful thing that happens may not happen immediately, but it's like I'm learning to only share as I'm feeling good. Not good, like just enjoying and in the moment of what I'm doing. Okay, so maybe the topic that I'm reading on is not enjoyable, but the actual act of shuffling the cards, allowing the information to flow through me, that's a good feeling. That's a good feeling. The most horrible part about my time on YouTube is probably posting it. Every time posting it and then knowing something is going to happen afterwards. Either people will watch it or people won't. That's the hardest part. And unfortunately, I'm very much aware that how the video does is affected by like where my heart's at even after I've released it. So there's a lot I'm processing, and I have to interact with these processes that are shifting within me. I have to interact with them because this is the awareness of my being. I am being. When I am reading, I am being. When I am posting, I am being. And when I am waiting, I am being. So I need to transform how I wait. You know, I'd rather not wait. I'd rather not wait. I'd rather be doing something else. However, I'm faced with the waiting as soon as I engage with comments. You can't read comments without seeing the analytics. And I sometimes wonder, you know, where does excellence come from? Because this idea of not attaching to outcomes and all that is something that has come to me through my own spiritual growth. I thought it ended. Through my own spiritual growth, I grew up on the basis that practice makes perfect. Quality and excellence are important. Integrity of how you do stuff is important. And how do we determine quality and excellence? Is it not through the result? And I've been looking for results in the wrong places, in the wrong place. And it all comes back to me. It all comes back to me because the way I am today is enough of a result. It's enough of a result and enough proof that playing with cards, playing with words, playing with music, and just playing with my heart is enough. And this is me again learning that I'm enough. I'm enough. You know, this is enough. My name means enough. It's just, 38 years and I'm enough. I'm enough. I feel like I'm in a confessional. Do you know what I mean? I've never been in one. But this feels very much like I'm also purging and sharing some truth. I mean, I'm human. We're all human. And being human means, it's like, depending on how we use the word perfection, I'm like a drop of God in the most non-compliant human avatar. You know? Like, I don't know how else to put it. And so there's always this balancing act that one has to live through, where you know you're perfect inside, but there are all these tricks and traps outside that threaten a regression. In the end, if I look back at the whole story, I'm going to be grateful for every single up and down, because it's like, this is how I'm propelled. You know, if I'm always like this, where am I going? I'm going nowhere. I'd much rather have this if it's going to send me up here, and I'd much rather have this if it's going to send me up there. I don't know. Is this what drugs is like? I don't know. It's like I am addicted to life. And life to me is like, I want to feel everything. I want to feel everything. But also, that's the thing, is that, like, to feel everything, it's a lot. It's a lot. I feel everything. Like, I'll be asked tomorrow how I am, and these days when someone says, how are you? I'm like, you know, or how's life? I'm like, you know, both ways. That's how I answer. Because the way they're asking, they want to know, like, according to how they define what fine looks like. You know, define. It's almost like defining life is the opposite of everything that's fine, really. I mean, but if I'm to speak about, like, what's fine according to their stuff, I'm not fine. But the thing is, inside, I know, like, I'm way better than fine. But I cannot answer the question, how's life? How are you? I can't answer. The only way I can answer now is to say, you know, both ways, but, you know, overall, like, I'm grateful. That's how I answer, if I'm to be honest. So this past week has been a lot of, there's something I want to share with you. I think I should start thinking about closing this video, you know, there's only so long one can shoot the breeze for. But I thought I'd share this because at some point I had to sort of let go of this all content creation. It felt like a month, it was probably just a week. But I had to let go of everything just to go back to, like, do something for no reason, you know? Give yourself a chance to do something you enjoy for no reason. And so I did. And I dived into, like, some sacred geometry. I'm not done. I got my compass out. And I don't know if you can see that clearly. There it is. And I'm still going to add to it. But as I've interacted with this piece of art, what I realized something about fate and free will and life. Okay, so this is sacred geometry, okay, through my hand. Use the compass. And so there is a part of me that's quite A-type. What does that mean? I need to know, before I start something, my human wants to know the layout. So that's how I'm comfortable. Like, I feel safer when I know the layout, and then I fill in the gaps. And generally, if one would draw something like this, you basically have a stencil up front. And I think that's how life is. There's this stencil, some predetermined grid sort of thing. And the free will is where we come in as humans. Me, I. That's where I come in. So I get to decide how I'm going to, which direction I'm going to take. You know, these patterns, if you follow a pattern, there's so many directions to the same point. But if you're going to make it from like here to here, from like here to like here, let's say, wherever, there are certain points you would have to pass through, let's say. There are always certain points you'll have to pass through, and I suppose that's where fate comes in. And the structure of your life is perfect. But how you color in certain edges, which route you take to get to where, that is perfect. It's already, all the routes are perfect. But you still get to choose left or right, and you get to choose the length of time, and you get to choose all of that. And as far as this, how this is helping me now, is at least for this point, you know, at least for this point. I mean, dealing with time is probably one of the most painful parts of life, like dealing with time, the waiting and the feeling like I'm going to be late for something. This is giving me comfort, because this is reminding me that everything is perfect and everything is where it needs to be, and everything that I need will be where it's supposed to be as long as I flow, because this geometry is carrying me. This geometry is carrying me. So even if I decide to like go over one area like 3 times, that's fine. The geometry is still going to carry me. And if you zoom out, when I zoom out, it's beauty. It's beauty. And when I'm done, I'm not going to be having a discussion with myself about how this area took 3 times as long than, and like 3 times longer than it needed to. No, absolutely not. And this is what is so divine about living, I suppose. And I'm going to be moving forward, embracing the lows and the highs. And I'm going to be moving forward, only engaging in stuff that I want to do, without explaining myself too much. And I'm going to move forward, grateful for the connections that I have here on Pyramid Energy. Old ones, current ones, and new ones. Because, again, it's like a reason and a season and a lifetime. It's like that kind of thing. Whatever I need for that time is what I have. And I don't want to find myself wishing for more than what is available to me now. And I know some people might consider this as like thinking small. That's irrelevant to me, because I'm not in the future. I'm right here. And anything that is going to be amazing and knock me off my feet is not going to happen when I'm paranoid and obsessing. I'm going to trip on it and I'm going to be like, ooh, look at that. And so I think this is all about presence and realizing I don't think anyone has the answers. I honestly just don't. And I think that's why I'm going to separate my content. Art as far as like poetry, my thoughts or channels on existential stuff, I won't be purporting any of it as divine facts. because I actually don't think anyone knows. I don't even think anyone knows who they're channeling. I don't think anyone knows, like, you won't know unless you might have memories of stuff. This whole thing's a simulation. You might have memories of stuff. How do you know what created that memory? Yeah, so, I'm a life path number 9. That means I've lived 9 lives. What if that's just the information that I gave myself for this trip on Earth? Nobody knows anything. Things have worked a certain way for so long here on Earth. Suddenly, age of Aquarius, hey, the truth is coming out. The stars are aligned that way. I think it's all beautiful. And I do think there's definitely it's a language, and there's an order to that too. But my point is, only God knows. Only God knows even where the Bible sits in our lives, let's say. Everything. Only God knows. We are limited. We are limited. And anything that we think we're seeing and we think we're doing, we don't know. We don't know for sure. We don't know for sure. And unfortunately, anyone can say anything. Anyone can say anything. I think that's what's most important about finding one's own truth. Interact with any content you want, I think. Including myself. I'm talking to myself. Interact with anything. But you will never find me sitting here telling you, believe me. Like, I know I often say the words I know, but that's when I know. That's when I have a feeling of knowing a healing outcome. Let me put it that way. And it's to share the level of confidence that I feel in what I'm seeing in cards or what I'm feeling in the channel. That's the I know I mean. I don't mean the I know because let me tell you, when you are sitting at court, the court of life, where you've gone by someone else's words, that person's not going to be there to back you up. Only you're there. Only you're there. And how you interact with the truth that's your relationship with your life. Nobody can teach you anything. And maybe this could be problematic for me, because I've also been seeing other content where people are talking about, this one woman was talking about how she had a near-death experience. She felt like she was losing her mind and she was going through a very dark time, and she says she saw hell. She says she saw hell. She said quite a few things. She said, I don't know if I can talk about this on YouTube. Trying to think about how to say it. So look, her background is, she's an evangelist, and she believes that everyone should be taught about how Jesus Christ is the Lord and Savior, the only one, and all this. She was saying that, and she explained in hell that people couldn't stop drinking, and there was this, couldn't stop drinking, couldn't stop taking drugs, couldn't stop, she actually said, not in these words, sorry, something fell, not in these words, but she was referring to homosexual activity, okay? I don't know how this all fits in for her, but that's not really the point. The point is, in hell, these people couldn't stop doing stuff that they engaged in on earth. They wanted to stop, but they couldn't. And so what I sensed is that she was actually referring more to the tormented soul. The tormented soul. So I was able to still appreciate what she was talking about, again, because I'm comfortable with my truth. But she was referring to the tormented soul and then Jesus as a savior, But then again, she was referring to hell as a place, so, and then death as the end of life, fleshy life. So not a tormented soul in the sense of a space and time a person finds themselves in, where if they have a moment of realization and allow the current self to die, they can be reborn and seek purity, or to try to attain purity of life and a closeness to God. That's not She wasn't referring to that. She's referring to, so it's very literal for me. But I guess basically what I'm saying is I feel more free now interacting with various content and kind of being like a voyeur in terms of how other people understand life. And that's why I'm able to listen to some of these, you know, other types of spiritual content without feeling completely thrown off my feet. You know, this perspective that no one knows anything. No one knows anything. People can pretend to. People can share their knowledge. People can share what divine inspiration that they receive for the consumption of those that have a similar aligned understanding, or who are searching for an answer to bring them peace, or, you know. But I don't think that it's possible to consume with discernment until one has gone on their own search, because then you have no reference point. You have no reference point. And before you know it, something else here on earth can become your God. Or so you think, you know, like I'm saying, perception. Something here on earth becomes your truth. You're not inside, you're not in here. You're not in here. And it's a recipe for disaster. And this is actually why I brought this up. This has even made me afraid to explain God to my children. Because what that woman made me realize is, does one encounter Jesus if they don't need to? Does one encounter anything if they don't need to? Because I really wonder. I wasn't on a search for Jesus. And again, my interaction with Jesus is based on how I perceived my vision. And I shared that. And so I'm not someone who's like, yes, I've met Jesus in my vision. I don't know. Maybe one day on the other side I'll know. But maybe even on the other side, there are limitations. Because nobody has come back to say, you know, they've seen God. And even people's perceptions of God, and if they have, I don't even know. I'm sure there's someone out there who says they've seen God. I don't know. There must be. There must be someone who says it. I'm just saying, I'm not saying have they or whatever. I'm saying there must be someone who says it. But even these like near-death experiences, I moved through a tunnel, all that. This is our perception. I think I'm going to cut it here. This was super long. But personally, I felt like I needed to share all of this stuff. I felt like it would be remiss of me to just move on and just switch things around without sharing, like, in terms of my existence and why I'm on YouTube and why I do what I do, and the things I sometimes worry about, and the things that I thought I'd just share that. Because it is definitely something that I miss when I'm looking at other people's content, and I find myself wondering about it. And so I just thought, you know what, Khunzi, let's just chat about like what has been going on in my mind, where I'm going. And the answer to that is I do not know. The answer to that is I do not know. And it often helps me to process the future by being willing to not encounter it. And so that means, that's why I sometimes think about closing the channel. It's not actually that I'll close the channel, but in that moment I have to be willing to, in order to learn something new about why I am here at all. I love you guys so much. Sending you so much light, sending you strength, sending you courage, and mostly the courage to express yourself and to continue to get to know yourself and to continue to search for your truth, and to be comfortable and feel peaceful in whatever you know so far. Catch you on the flip side.